the day my smile became my greatest weapon. Hello, my beautiful souls, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Lucy. I'm 72 years old, and I have stories that will make your jaw drop. Before I dive into today's tale, please do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss a story. Also, I'm so curious. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're listening from. Are you cozied up in London, sipping coffee in New York, watching from sunny Australia? I love hearing from all of you around the world. Now settle in with your tea or coffee, because what I'm about to tell you is the story of how my daughter-in-law's smirk turned into the biggest mistake of her life. I never imagined that at 72 years old, living in the house my late husband Robert and I built together 45 years ago, I would be dealing with such betrayal. Robert passed 3 years ago from a heart attack, sudden and shocking, leaving me alone in our 4-bedroom colonial home with its wraparound porch and the garden he loved so dearly. My son Marcus is my only child, and after his father died, he became distant. I understood grief affects people differently, but what I didn't understand was how his wife Jennifer had been slowly poisoning his mind against me. Jennifer always smiled to my face, always called me Mom Lucy with that saccharine sweetness that made my teeth ache, but I saw the calculation in her eyes. She was 38, beautiful in that carefully maintained way, and she had plans. Oh, did she have plans? For 2 years after Robert's death, she would make comments during family dinners. "This house is so big for just you, Mom Lucy. Don't you get lonely? Or the maintenance on a place like this must be exhausting at your age." Each comment was a little needle poking and prodding, testing my reactions. 6 months ago, Marcus sat me down in my own living room in the chair where his father used to read the newspaper every morning and told me he and Jennifer had been discussing my situation. He said they were worried about me, that I was getting older, that managing the house was too much, that I should consider moving into a senior living community. His eyes wouldn't meet mine as he spoke, and I just knew these weren't entirely his words. Jennifer sat beside him, her hand on his knee, her face arranged in an expression of concerned sympathy that didn't reach her cold blue eyes. "We've even looked at some nice places," Jennifer chimed in, pulling out brochures from her designer handbag. "This one has activities, 24-hour care, and you'd make so many friends your own age." She said, "Your own age," like it was a disease, a shameful condition I should hide away from the world. I took the brochures with shaking hands, not from fear or sadness, but from rage I had to contain. I smiled and said I'd think about it, even though every fiber of my being wanted to throw them both out of my house right then. But I'm not impulsive. I didn't become a successful real estate agent for 30 years by acting on emotion. I observe, I plan, and I execute. So I started paying attention, really paying attention. I noticed how Jennifer would walk through my house, mentally measuring rooms, running her fingers along my antique furniture, like she was already deciding what to keep and what to sell. I noticed how she took pictures of the house when she thought I wasn't looking. I noticed the whispered phone call she'd make from my garden. And one day, when she left her phone on my kitchen counter to use the bathroom, I noticed a text message to her mother that made everything clear. "Won't be long now. The old bat is finally considering moving. Once she's gone, this place is ours." My hands trembled as I put her phone back exactly where she'd left it. The old bat. That's what I was to her. Not the woman who had welcomed her into our family, who had babysat her children every week, who had paid for their vacation to Europe last year when they were struggling financially. I was just an obstacle standing between her and my home. But here's what Jennifer didn't know about this old bat. I still had all my faculties, all my connections, and a stubborn streak that Robert used to say could move mountains. I called my attorney, David Chun, the next morning. David had been our family lawyer for 20 years, and he'd helped Robert and me with our estate planning. "David," I said, "I need to make some changes to my will, and I need to do it quietly." We met at his office, and I laid out everything I'd observed. David listened, his expression growing more serious with each detail. "Lucy," he said, "I'm going to be honest with you. What you're describing sounds like elder manipulation. Your son and daughter-in-law may be trying to coerce you into giving up your home." That word coerce, it crystallized everything. I wasn't being paranoid. I wasn't being a stubborn old woman refusing to face reality. I was being manipulated, and that realization filled me with a cold, clear determination. I revised my will that day. The house, my investments, everything would go into a trust that Marcus couldn't touch until he was 65, and only if certain conditions were met. If he tried to contest it, or if I was moved into assisted living against my will within the next 10 years, everything would go to charity. David made sure it was ironclad, but I didn't stop there. I hired a private investigator, a sharp young woman named Teresa, who came highly recommended. I need to know everything about my daughter-in-law's finances. I told her something doesn't add up. Teresa worked fast. Within 3 weeks, she presented me with a file that made my blood run cold. Jennifer and her parents were in massive debt, nearly $400,000. Her father had made bad investments, and they'd taken out loans against their own home, which was now in foreclosure. Jennifer's spending habits, those designer bags and luxury vacations, had been funded by credit cards they couldn't pay off. But here's the kicker. They'd been planning this for over a year. Teresa found emails between Jennifer and her mother discussing how they could convince me to move out so they could move in. Once they had the house, they planned to either sell it or take out a mortgage against it to pay their debts. My home, the place where I'd raised my son, where I'd nursed my husband through his final days, was nothing more than a financial asset to liquidate. The confrontation came 2 months ago, faster than I'd anticipated. Marcus and Jennifer showed up on a Sunday afternoon with their parents in tow. Carl and Patricia, whom I'd met maybe 5 times in the 8 years Jennifer and Marcus had been married. Jennifer had that smirk on her face, that satisfied little curve of her lips that told me she thought she'd won. "Mom?" Marcus started, and I could hear the rehearsed quality to his words. "We need to talk about your living situation. It's become urgent." "Urgent?" I asked, setting down my gardening gloves. "I've been planting roses. Robert's favorite." Jennifer stepped forward, and this is when her mask really slipped. "Mom, Lucy, we can't keep worrying about you like this. Marcus barely sleeps thinking about you alone in this big house. We've made a decision. We're moving in to take care of you. My parents, too. They've just lost their house, and this way we can all be together as a family. Isn't that wonderful?" The audacity of it took my breath away. They hadn't asked. They decided, and that smirk on Jennifer's face as her parents stood behind her, looking at my house like it was already theirs. That smirk lit a fire in me that I'd been banking for months. I smiled. I smiled the warmest, sweetest smile I could manage. "What a wonderful surprise," I said. And I watched Jennifer's smirk grow wider. "Please come in, all of you. Let's have some tea and discuss this properly." As they filed into my house, Jennifer whispered something to her mother and they both laughed. They actually laughed right there in my foyer. We sat in the living room and I served tea and the cookies I'd baked that morning. I'd actually had a feeling they might show up soon. Jennifer was practically bouncing with excitement. "We can put Mom and Dad in the guest room," she said, gesturing around like she was already the lady of the house. "And we'll take the master bedroom, of course. So we're close by if you need anything at night. Mom, Lucy, you can have the smaller bedroom at the end of the hall." My bedroom? The room I shared with Robert for 40 years. They were going to give me the small bedroom at the end of the hall like I was a child or a burden. Marcus looked uncomfortable, but he didn't speak up. He just sat there letting his wife redesign my life. "That sounds lovely," I said, my voice steady. "I've actually prepared something for you all, a welcome package, you might say." I pulled out 4 envelopes from the side table drawer, each one labeled with a name. Jennifer's eyes lit up. She probably thought they contained keys or door codes. "Before you open these," I said, "I want you to know that I've given this a lot of thought. I've considered what's best for everyone involved." Jennifer tore into her envelope first, greedy and impatient. I watched as her face went from excited to confused to absolutely pale. Her hands started shaking. One by one, the others opened their envelopes, and I watched the color drain from every face in that room. Inside each envelope was a comprehensive dossier. For Jennifer and her parents, it included printouts of their financial records, the debts, the foreclosure notices, the emails discussing their plan to take over my house. For Marcus, there was a copy of my new will, along with a letter explaining exactly why I changed it. But that wasn't all. I'd also included copies of text messages between Jennifer and her mother, calling me names I won't repeat here, discussing how they put me in the cheapest nursing home we can find once they'd secured the house. You see, I said, my voice calm as I sipped my tea. I may be 72, but I'm not senile and I'm not stupid. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? That I wouldn't investigate when my own son suddenly wanted to ship me off to a senior home while my house fell conveniently into your hands? Jennifer's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Her father, Carl, had turned an alarming shade of red. Patricia was crying, actual tears running down her face, but it was Marcus. I focused on my son, my boy, who looked like he'd been slapped. "Mom," he whispered, "I didn't know about all of this. I thought we were helping you." "Did you, Marcus?" I asked, and my voice was sharper than I intended. "Did you really think I needed help? Or did your wife convince you that your elderly mother was a burden, too frail and confused to manage her own life? When have I ever given you reason to think I was incompetent?" I balance my checkbook every month. I manage my investments. I volunteer at the library twice a week, and I beat you at chess the last 3 times we played. The silence in that room was deafening. Jennifer finally found her voice. "You had no right to invade our privacy like that," she hissed, all pretense of sweetness gone. "Those were private financial matters." I laughed, and it wasn't a nice laugh. "Privacy. You were planning to steal my house and throw me away like garbage. And you want to talk about privacy? Here's what's going to happen. You are going to leave my house right now, all of you. Marcus, you're welcome back when you're ready to have an honest conversation about what your wife has been doing. But Jennifer is no longer welcome here ever. You can't ban me from seeing my husband's mother." Jennifer sputtered, standing up so fast she knocked over her teacup. "Actually, I can. I said this is my house, and I decide who enters it. And Jennifer, if you try to contest this, if you try to spread lies about me being incompetent or in need of care, I will release every piece of information in those envelopes to your entire social circle. I will make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you are." Carl tried to speak, tried to defend his daughter, but I cut him off. "You lost your house through your own poor decisions, and instead of taking responsibility, you decided to manipulate my son into stealing mine. The answer is no. It will always be no. Figure out your own problems without victimizing me." They left. Jennifer was in tears. Real ones this time, not the calculated kind. Her parents slunk out like scolded children, but Marcus lingered at the door. "Mom, I'm so sorry," he said, and I could see he meant it. "I thought I was doing the right thing. She told me you'd asked her about senior living, that you were scared to be alone." "Your wife is a liar, Marcus," I said quietly. "And you chose to believe her over me. That's what hurts the most. You didn't even ask me directly. You just assumed that at 72, I must be ready to give up everything I've worked for." He left that day, but he came back 3 days later alone. We talked for hours. He'd confronted Jennifer, and she'd admitted to everything, the debts, the manipulation, the plan. He'd also discovered she'd been hiding their own financial problems from him, running up credit cards he didn't know about. The perfect life he thought they had was built on lies and borrowed money. Marcus filed for divorce 2 weeks later. He's living in an apartment now, working through his own mess, going to therapy to understand how he let himself be manipulated. We talk every week, and slowly we're rebuilding our relationship. He understands now that helping your parent doesn't mean taking away their autonomy. It means supporting them while they maintain their independence. As for Jennifer and her parents, I heard through the grapevine that they moved out of state, possibly to escape their creditors. I don't know, and I don't care. What I do know is that I'm still in my house, still tending Robert's roses, still living my life on my own terms. The attorney I consulted told me I did everything right. I protected myself legally and financially, but more than that, I protected my dignity. I refused to be made into a helpless old woman who needed to be managed and controlled. I showed my daughter-in-law that age doesn't mean weakness, and that underestimating someone because of their gray hair is a costly mistake. Now, I want you all to understand something important. Elder abuse isn't always physical. Sometimes it's subtle. The suggestions that you can't handle your own affairs, the implications that you're becoming a burden, the slow erosion of your independence. If you're experiencing this, or if you know someone who is, please speak up. Talk to an attorney. Talk to a trusted friend. Document everything. You have rights no matter your age. And to my younger viewers, remember this. When your own parents get older, helping them doesn't mean taking over their lives. It means respecting their autonomy while providing support. Ask them what they need instead of deciding for them. Include them in decisions about their own lives. Treat them with the dignity they deserve. So that's my story, my loves. The day my smile became my greatest weapon was the day I handed those envelopes to the people who thought they could take advantage of me. That smirk on Jennifer's face when she walked in so confident, so sure she'd won. I wish I'd taken a picture of how it melted away, but I don't need a picture. That memory keeps me warm on cold nights. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more tales from my 7 decades on this earth. Drop a comment below telling me where you're from, and whether you've ever had to stand up to someone who underestimated you. I read every single comment, and I love hearing your stories too. Remember, my darlings, just because there's snow on the roof doesn't mean there's no fire in the furnace. Age is just a number, and wisdom is the most powerful weapon you can have. Never let anyone make you feel like you're less than you are. Until next time, this is Lucy signing off. Stay strong, stay independent, and never ever let anyone's smirk intimidate you. Turn it into your motivation. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next story. Take care of yourselves, and remember, respect your elders because one day you'll be one too.